Hello, can you all hear me? Hello. Okay. Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the National Perspective. Now, I know that it's been very long. I know that it's been quite a while since we did this. And there's a reason for it. And the reason for it is I moved to Delhi. So I am a Bangalorean. I've been born and brought up in Bangalore. I'm a Kannadiga, but recently for my university, I moved to Delhi. For those of you who are wondering, I joined the IIT Delhi's public policy program, Masters in Public Policy program, and I moved to Delhi. So it's been like a week since I'm here in Delhi. So I needed some time to set things up. I got myself a place and everything. I got myself a mic and a camera. And this is going to be a lot more serious from now on, because when I was in Bangalore, I had a lot of limitations. But here we are. Okay, we have a lot to discuss today. And when I say a lot, I mean it's quite a lot. So today's episode might be longer than my usual episode. But if you are willing to stick around for the end, I think I have some very interesting things to talk about. And I obviously want your opinions too. First of all, hi and welcome. If you guys are new here, this is the National Perspective. This is a weekly show, supposed to be a weekly show, but honestly, my discipline is running very low. But I'm hoping, and I think that I'm very positive that from now on, this is going to become a very, very weekly thing. Every Sunday, I know today is a Saturday, but today there's an episode because I'm sure you all saw the news, and we had to discuss about the issue. So, bruh, seen the Delhi Degens in person. Tell me about it. It's only been a week. But we'll discuss about everything. We'll discuss about my life later on too. But now, I think that there is something very interesting to be discussed about. As you all saw the news, Dharmendra Pradhan, our education minister, has officially resigned. He tendered his resignation today evening. And with that, hopefully, the entire CJP episode has come to an end. We are looking at a loss of political relevancy now for the CJP because they do not have any other, sticking point to go hold on to. And as I have always said before, the CJP is not a movement that will survive. It's going to burn fast. It's going to make a lot of noise. But eventually, when it burns out, right? Okay, we have a lot to discuss. First of all, let's start with something that I found very irritating during the entire protest and even in general about Indian politics, right? People don't realize that the purpose of this system is the outcome that it produces. If you guys are sitting there and telling, well, the Indian political system is broken, the education system is broken, it's not broken because it's not doing its job. It's broken because the system was designed to be broken, right? And I find it very funny. All these protesters, right? They come to every single protest and they hold up the Constitution of India and they say, well, look, you people are being anti-constitutional, when they don't realize that the very system that they are complaining about is coming from the same book itself. It is coming from the same constitution itself. So any real change must talk about changing this rule book, changing this constitution, if we are to achieve any reasonable change. Today, Dharmendra Pradhan stepped down. Tomorrow, another minister will come in his place. Can you guarantee that there will not be another paper leak? Well, then they'll say, oh, well, this is just about accountability. What good does it do? Tell me one thing. It feels good, right? It feels really good that Dharmendra Pradhan stepped down. Finally, someone is taking accountability. But from tomorrow, we are back to square one. We are back to square one because the system that has been designed underneath all the governments, underneath every single government, is the same system that is leading us into ruin today. People need to realize one thing. In 2014, people were not Hindutva pilled yet. Okay? People were not Hindutva pilled yet in 2014, and still the BJP came into power. BJP didn't come into power because of narrative building. BJP didn't come into power because people suddenly woke up one day and decided that they are now Kattar Hindutvavadis. That's not what happened, right? It is because of the failures, the governance, systematic failures of the Congress party that pushed the BJP into power into 2014. That is the main point here. So governance issues, when they fall falter, it's not just the party that suffers, it's also the ideology that suffers. It is also the ideology of that suffers. And as somebody on the right sitting here and observing Indian politics, I'm looking at the BJP and going, how did you allow a neat protest to turn into a protest against Hindutva? And it's a very serious question. You have let us down. You have let everybody in this country who voted for you down. We voted, people in 2014 voted for you for one reason alone, because we were sick and tired of this entire Congress party and its incompetence and its inefficiency. That is why the BJP came into power. Nobody woke up and decided to be very Hindutvavadi one day. 70 years of independence, people never became Hindutva. But it is only and repeatedly only when the ruling Congress government failed and they were inefficient and they were not unconstitutional, right? But they were inefficient that the BJP has come into power. And when the BJP has come into power, we have always demanded that you take radical action. That is why you were voted into power. That is why we put you in power. So when people hold up the constitution and they say, well, you guys are anti-constitutional, you are failing to realize you're making a category error, because the entirety of the problems of our country is coming from that one singular book. And if a government had spine, they would have changed it. They had the majority to do it, but they did not do it. I have seen this very, very, very prominent excuse from a lot of right-wingers and a lot of party members. When I say right-wingers and party members, there's a big difference between the two, right? Right-wingers are those who are politically on the right, but may or may not always agree with the BJP on everything. And then there are political party workers who will defend the government and who will defend the party under whichever circumstances, comes in. The difference between the two is that one is principled and one is dependent to a party. So whenever I speak to any of the party pillars, you know what they tell me? They say, we have come into power, but the system is still there. The system is still there. 15 years, ladies and gentlemen, 15 years you were in power. 15 years you had time to gut through the bureaucracy. 15 years you had time to capture the institutions. 15 years you had time to take care of the incompetency in the bureaucratic state, and you did not do it. Now, who is to blame? Who is to blame? And it's a very serious question. As a young person who voted for you guys in order to bring about development of the country and also Hindutva ideology at the same time, because very rarely the urban Indian voter who voted for BJP would only vote on Hindutva basis. They would have voted both on education, both on the governance perspective and on the Hindutva perspective. In fact, most of our parents, the boomer generation who, we always say, oh, WhatsApp generation, WhatsApp university, right? They lived through the Congress phase. That is why they voted for BJP. And I want to make a very interesting point that I don't think people talk about. And I hope somebody from the party is listening to this. You need to understand that I was born in 2002. Okay. I'm 23 years old. I'm born in 2002. And the very first prime minister that I consciously remember is Modi. I do not remember, and when I say I also want you to apply the same logic to everyone who's of my age and my generation. We have never seen any other prime minister apart from Modi. So when you guys make statements that when they say, right, they say, well, it was so bad in the Congress era, we can't relate. And I'm sorry, we just can't relate because we have not lived through it. The reason our parents live and die by the BJP is because they have seen it. They have experienced it. They know what it means for a country to not have toilets. They know for a country what it means to not have electricity, right? We have those basic needs more or less covered. And now we obviously want more. And that's what the right wing always wants, because we're pro-industrialization like that. But we have not seen it, so we can't really relate to the messaging that the party gives out. And that's the truth. We can't relate to the messaging that the party gives out when they say, well, things were much more worse in the Congress era. It is only the people in this chat box like you and I, who have the interest in politics to actually open a book, to read, to understand history. We can understand what they're saying. But the average person who spends his time all day working for his livelihood, going to college, preparing for exams, they do not have the time. Nor do they have the privilege to read about a time where they did not consciously experience. And to them, if you say, well, Rahul Gandhi's time Manmohan Singh's time was so much more bad, they are not going to relate. So maybe it's time to change the messaging. maybe, just maybe, right? Because 15 years you guys have been in power, maybe it's time to start listening to what we have to say. We are the next generation of politics. Social media is the next generation of politics. Your narrative warfare that you guys keep doing day in and day out, it's not going to work anymore. It's not going to work because you have proven it to be incompetent, right? There are a lot of things to talk about today, and I'm completely going by the flow. I don't really have a plan for this particular, you know, uh, episode, and I really want your opinions on these things. But do you guys get my point? The average young person is not able to understand the BJP's messaging when they say things were so bad back in the day. It doesn't matter because we have never consciously experienced it. We have never consciously experienced it. The youth's attention span, and I'm telling this to you as a young person, as a person of the Gen Z, the youth's attention span and the youth's interest is dependent largely on what they see on social media, especially if they have access to a phone and they're coming from an urban environment. It depends largely on what they see on social media. What is trending right now? The CJP was trending, people jumped on the bandwagon. And you guys, as the ruling establishment, people who have the cultural hegemony, you are supposed to make sure that you are in trend. Leave alone you. Hindutva as an ideology is in trend. That is your job. That is why we voted for you. We voted for you to disturb the cultural hegemony of the left that had been created. And you have allowed a NEET issue, an issue on a NEET mishap to come to this. Now, why did this happen? Why did the NEET protest become a focal point against Hindutva? You know why? Because Dharmendra Pradhan did not resign when the NEET paper itself got leaked. On that day, if he had taken accountability, he must have left it. He must have resigned. And when the UGC protests happened, when the CBSE controversy happened, you had enough chances, enough warning signs that this ship is sinking. And you must have gotten out of this ship to save yourself from this embarrassment. And that is the reality of it, but nobody wants to accept it. Let me just read what you guys are talking. Tell me about it. The Constitution unfortunately cannot be touched because of the so-called basic spirit of the Constitution. But we have seen that a government with enough willingness can do it. We can bypass institutions to do it. But for good reason, of course. Not for the aggrandizement of political power, but for the necessity of bypassing these institutions that keep our country caged. Now, I'm going to say something that's very controversial, okay? And you may agree with me, you may disagree with me, and that's your right to do so. I'm not gonna infringe upon that. You may agree with me, you may disagree with me. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who on the right many people admire, had once famously said that the bureaucracy of our country is like the steel cage. I'm sorry. I misread. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel once said that the bureaucracy of our country is the steel frame of our country. I disagree. I don't think it's a steel frame. I think it's a steel cage. I think it cages our country. That is the only institution in our state that actively seeks to retard any development that we want to do. Because of bureaucratic red tapeism, because of the middleman, because of people eating up money in the process, it just doesn't happen. Political will never get translated into actual action and policy on the ground because the bureaucracy does not allow it. And people tell me, well, even till today, 60 to 70% of all the bureaucrats are leftist. Why do you think I voted for the BJP? Why do you think anybody here voted for the BJP? We voted for radical action. And one of the basic steps of the radical action is cleanse the bureaucracy, top to bottom. If you want to achieve actual change, it's not more so important that the middlemen are yours, but what's more so important is the people at the end, the people who are actually interacting with the citizens, the people who are actually part of the executive, they are the ones that need a cleansing. That is why the BJP was voted to power. Again and again, I'm telling you. And you have failed us. You have failed us. And let's not make any two bones about it. As a young person who voted for the right, who believes himself to be on the right of the political spectrum, what we want is radical action. And I have been saying this from the time beginning, ever since I started my Instagram account, ever since I started my Twitter account, ever since I have ever given opinions on politics, anytime, I have always said that the right wants more radical action. We want not only cleaner governance, but more radical action. BJP practices a weird version of Hindutva. No. You know why? They don't even practice Hindutva. They practice Hindu politics for sure. I agree with that. They practice Hindu identity politics for 100%. But I can guarantee you that none of their policies are actually rooted in any of Savarkar's writings. I want you guys to pick up. I'll show you one book. Hold on. Be on the be here. I will show you a book. Okay. There is this book called Braveheart Savarkar, and it's by this guy called Ashutosh Deshmukh, and this book was gifted to me by the owner of a think tank. And one of the things in this book that Ashutosh Deshmukh talks about is Savarkar's ideology and the framework that he gives for what Hindutva even is. The framework for what Hindutva even is. And what you will realize is that Hindutva and liberalism can never be reconciled. In India today, the constitution is based on the myth of liberal universalism. Now, I will explain to you what liberal universalism is, right? Because I feel it's very important for us to have this discussion. As young people on the right, what we are seeing is we don't want young people to be lost in this, to be lost in the air of CJP, in the air of leftism, because it's very easy for that to happen. Considering that the establishment has been right for so long, there requires a dialectic shift. And what's happening is that dialectic shift was left empty because there was no reasonable opposition to the country. And now what we are seeing is, in the name of the youth, a new opposition is coming up. And we need to discuss about what liberal universalism is, in order to understand where we actually stand, what even is Hindutva. Okay, what even is Hindutva? To understand what even is Hindutva, we need to understand what it is not, first of all. Now, you can Google this. There is something called as liberal universalism. Okay, now as the name suggests, it's made up of liberal and universalism. Liberalism is the idea of, or at least it's rooted in the idea of individualism. Right? That the individual is paramount. That the individual is paramount. That the primary political unit of governance is the individual. And universalism means this is true for everybody. This is why America wants to spread democracy in Middle East. Right? Or at least ideologically speaking, they really believe it. They believe that democracy is the natural form of human governance, when the reality is that democracy is not even that old. For the majority of human history, we have lived in hierarchy. For the majority of human history, we have lived with authoritarianism. All right? And the reality is that democracy as a concept is very, very new. And you have, our Indian politicians coming out and succumbing to this lie of liberal universalism and telling, well, India is the mother of democracy. India is the mother of democracy. No! Am I the only one? Do I have to say it that democracy as a concept is flawed and that liberal universalism as a concept is flawed? Maybe democracy might work in European countries. Maybe democracy might work in Western countries. But in India, the social forces of a society do not allow for a democracy to flourish. Even there is that one very, very famous interview, right, of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, where what is he saying in that video? He's saying that I am sure that, in India, democracy will not work. If you are sure that in India democracy will not work, why implement it in the first place? Why implement it in the first place? When the founder of the constitution himself is telling you that I really don't think democracy in India will work, and he's saying it so casually, right? He's just throwing around the statement. Why even implement democracy in the first place? Democracy is not like some virtuous political system. It's a popularity contest. What we need competent leaders. That's what we need. So liberal universalism, which essentially says that the entirety of humanity can come under the sway of liberalism, because ultimately humans are meant for liberalism. This is literally what liberal universalism says. And I think Lee Kuan Yew gave the very best explanation for it. He explained something called Asian values. That in Asia, the countries that actually do well, and you really think about it, in Asia, all the countries that do well do not survive, do not do it with democracy. People say Singapore, such a developed country, but what you're actually forgetting is Singapore is not a democracy. It's a soft democracy, right? It is steeped in authoritarianism. The People's Action Party, the PAP, Lee Kuan Yew's party, I don't think they've ever lost power. And it's designed that way. It's designed that way. But what they have done it is they've combined it with meritocratic, the element of it, which is why it works. The anti-corruption board works, right? Everybody is held to the same standard. There are also obviously lots of other reasons why Singapore is successful. I'm not trying to be univisioned about it, but you see my point. The idea, right? The preposterous idea that British parliamentary system can solve Indian societal problems is the core of the issue. All of your governance issues, no matter what, will never ever work, because the system remains the same. No party will solve these problems. No party can solve these problems because the system itself impedes it. The system is not designed to work. There's that quote, right? The purpose of the system is the consequences that it creates. People like to hold up the constitution and say, oh, you are deviating from the constitution, you are anti-constitutional. The constitution is the problem. The constitution gives the state the right to curb down your protest. People at the Jantar Mantar were holding the constitution and saying, you are being anti-constitutional, this is police brutality. My friend, the Indian constitution is extremely centralist, it is statist, and it will always give power to the state to uphold its legitimacy. There is a reason why India is not a federal country. There is a reason, and that is because the constitution itself describes India as an indestructible union of destructible states. People like to say, well, India is a quasi-federal country. It is not a quasi-federal country. India is not a quasi-federal country. It is a centralist country. It is a unitary country in spirit, and that will never be changed. That will never be changed. Right? And the sooner young people are able to open their eyes to this, the sooner that we will be able to actually create some change in our country. That is the problem. Right? Now, what is Hindutva? Hindutva does not treat the individual as the primary political unit, but rather Hindutva treats the entire nation of Hindus as a primary political unit. And maybe this is a time to go into a little bit of theory, because, we're just at the start of the stream. We have a lot of time, and I will explain this in detail now that I have the mic. People need to realize one thing. India is not just a marking on the map of a border. Okay? India is not just border lines that is drawn on the world map. India is not just a collection of individuals who have happened to share history together. If you look at the definition of what a nation is, right, and the classical European sense, the classical nationalist definition of what a nation is, it is a common people that is bound by a common language, common culture, common history, and common ethnicity, right? This is called a nation. This is the classical definition of a nation. And can we say that is true for India? Now, before you call me anti-national, I have an answer to this, obviously. I know that you guys are patient, but it does not fit the classical definition of a nation. India does not fit the classical definition of a nation. Because think about it, we don't have a common language. I'm from South India, I'm a Kannadiga, and if you tell me that, Hindi is more important than Kannada, I will feel left out. But I am also a nationalist. I believe in my nation. So, is India a nation or not? We don't have a common language. Do we have a common culture? There is a common meta structure of a culture, and I will get to that. But when we look at it from a perspective of, do we have a common culture? I don't think that's true, because we have different dietary habits, we have different dressing senses, we speak different languages, we have different axioms of truth. You take an average Northeast person, right? And you compare him to somebody from, say, Karnataka, like me. We don't share the same language, we don't have the same food, we don't wear the same clothes, we don't look at life also the same way. So what is it that is keeping us together? And it's a very serious question. What is it that is keeping our country together? And I've written an article about this on my Twitter. You guys can go check it out. But I describe India is not just a nation. India is a supra-nation. It is a nation of nations, right? India is a metastructure. The Bharatiya civilization that we talk about, which I proudly identify myself as a Bharatiya, it is a metastructure. It is a nation of nations, and that meta-nation, the supra-nation, has found a way to synchronize all these many nations in our country into one unified, beautiful structure. That is what India is. And based on this understanding of India, this is how every single, indigenous empire like the Mauryas, the Guptas, all of them ruled. If you observe the rule of any of the Mauryas or the Guptas, what you will see is that they focused on decentralization, right? They did not have complete free market capitalism because it was not envisioned as such back in the day. But they did give sufficient freedom to industries to flourish, and the state merely acted as the arbitrator between the different industries and only synchronized them. And this is called as a Shreni system. You guys can go Google it. It is the ancient Indian economic guild system, right? This is how India was always organized. And the Indian state per se never infringed upon your rights. They never told you what to do. Indians were governed by society more than they were governed by the state. And this has been the reality of the Indian subcontinent since a very long time. Every single successful indigenous empire, be it the Mauryas or the Guptas, even if they conquered the lands down south, they never interfered in the way of life of the people, right? What did they do? They collected taxes, they collected the tribute, and that's it. No interference of their way of life was done. It was Indian society that morphed itself as it went on to create this unified nation. So India is not just a nation, it is a supra-nation. It is a nation of cultures. It is a nation of nations. Show me one subcontinent, show me one continent on this earth that has the diversity of the Indian nation. You will not find it. Every town has a different god, every town has a different dialect, right? Everything is different. People like to say, well, okay, so I think the best way that we can separate the cultures in this Indian nation is by language. Wrong. I will tell you that is wrong. I am a Kannadiga, bros. I am a Kannadiga, right? And I am telling you that there is no nation of Karnataka also. There is only such a thing as each district, each city, each town. It should be decentralized to that level. So when I say online, I want decentralization, make no mistake. I'm not talking about giving power to the state agencies. No, 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 no. I'm telling India is not a union of states. India is a union of districts. India is a union of districts. So when I say Hindutvavadi or Indic governance, what I mean is I want the Indian governance structure to be based on Indian society and Indian culture and Indian history. A rigorous study of Indian history and our political systems will be able to synthesize a pathway for the future. That is the reality. And the Indian constitution is centralist, it is statist, and at the end of the day, the Indian constitution actively works against the Indian people. I know this is controversial to say. No politician on the right or the left will say this. Nobody will tell you this. Nobody will tell you this because they're afraid. Because they're afraid to be obscene. That's what they are. On the right and the left, nobody will tell you that the real problem of India is our constitution. And I am telling you that. Because once you read the Indian constitution, what you will realize is that this constitution is not even our constitution. It is a mix of every single system in the world, and they have made it into a nice mess, and they have called it our Indian constitution. And that was done because the founder of the constitution, because the Constituent Assembly and the Indian academic class that came out of the colonial era also bought into the lie of liberal universalism. That if a system can work in Europe, a system can work in India. And that is why the British parliamentary system was chosen to solve Indian problems. When British society and Indian society are fundamentally two different social organisms. The social forces that we have here are different. The values that we hold are different. So should not the governance structure of a country be decided on the society that it is going to govern, and not on this theoretical understanding of politics in general. And it's internationalist politics, right? Because everything is about, well, the British parliamentary system made British successful. No, my friend. No. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. It is British society that made Britain what it is. And it is Indian society that makes India what it is. And therefore, in order to govern Indian society, you need Indian systems. You need systems that are rooted in tradition. Because those systems have governed us for millennia. Last 70 years has been an aberration on Indian society. The last 70 years of independence on Indian society has been an aberration because we have never been ruled like this. We have never ever been ruled like this. The British system came in, right? They looked at Indian society and their intention was to rule and to keep their authority for as long as possible. That is why they designed that system. And yet we inherited the same colonial system into our country. Is that what we have done? That's what we have done. So when I see people say, like, They hold up the constitution, and it really pisses me off because everybody does this, from the right and the left both do this. They hold up the Indian constitution like as if it's the Vedas, right? And they say Jai Samvidhan, Jai Samvidhan. How can you go against this? My friend, the problems have originated from here. This is where the problem comes from, right? Because the system will only work the way it is supposed to work. The British parliamentary system has been a catastrophic failure for the Indian society. 70 years of governance and we have not achieved much. We have not achieved much. And forgive me for being cynical. There will always be people who say, well, think about that. We are so and so largest economy, right? But you know what the problem is, my friend? We can be the so and so largest economy. It's fine. And I really appreciate it. Like, in the sense that it's really good for our country. But you know what the problem is? Tomorrow when I have to get married and I have to get my marriage certificate, I have to pay a bribe. Tomorrow I want to buy a house, I have to pay a bribe. I want to go to the police station and I want to register a complaint, I have to pay a bribe. So for me, things have not really changed, have they? Because when I was a kid, when we were all kids, I'm sure we were all kids, and when we were in our first standard, second standard, I remember my teacher telling me that, Samir, by the time you grow up, India would have been a developed country. And that stings you. And that hurts you. Because when you look at the system, so many years later, you realize nothing has changed. And slowly it will dawn upon you. And slowly but surely, it will dawn upon you that the problem is not the party. The problem is not anything apart from the system itself. And when I say system, we have to define what that system is. That system is our political system. It's our British parliamentary governance system. The idea that you can divide India into multiple districts, assign one member of parliament there, and have them come to parliament to perform national theatre for 3 times a year, and we all will be satisfied. And we know that there is no actually law being drafted in the Indian Parliament. Everybody knows it. The laws are actually being drafted in the back rooms, in offices of bureaucrats, in the offices of the minister, and the Parliament exists only to show us what is being done. That's it. So why even play the game? Why even behave like this? We know that the government in power will always pass everything that they want to do. So why even why play this game? And it's a serious question that I want you all to think about. Okay, so there has been a lot of chats. We will try to cover them. Protest turning anti-Hindu was inevitable. They leaked the paper, and that was just a catalyst for opportunities. That's every political movement, and you're right. It is true. Okay, on 15 years they did not. In these 15 years, they did not destroy this left ecosystem. That's true. We are Instagram University, which is worse than WhatsApp University. Yeah, man, get lost. Like, why are you even here? Listen. The reality is that Indian society is not British society. Indian society is not American society. Indian society is not any Western society. We have fundamentally different values. We have fundamentally different problems. And the idea that a Western system of liberal democracy can solve our problems, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. The problem is the system. You think that tomorrow a new party will come into power and anything will change? I'm telling you, it's not going to change. Unless and until that party is willing to bypass certain institutions, it's not going to change. What we have in our country is a steel cage. It's a steel cage. It's not a steel frame, as Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel told us. It's a steel cage. It constricts our governance. That's what it is. Okay, this has been a good conversation. We'll talk about Dharmendra Pradhan now and the Education Ministry. Might I remind you that when the UGC protests happened, it was the right wing that came out and said that Dharmendra Pradhan should resign. The core voter base of this party came out and told that Dharmendra Pradhan should resign. Did he resign? No. CBSE controversy happened. He didn't resign. Okay. Then UGC wala protest happened. No. NEET protests have NEET when the NEET paper got leaked only, I remember many right-wing voices on Twitter and IRL were telling the government that he should resign. Did he resign? They didn't listen to us. And now they are facing the consequences, and as a result, the entirety of Hindutva has taken a hit. And that's the problem. They have sacrificed Hindutva at the altar of a person's career who was anyway going to resign now. He anyway resigned now. So what's the difference? What's the point? He anyway resigned. Exactly. Thank you, Levi Ackerman. Thank you. That's a very good point. I quote, the biggest problem stems from a lot of politically and economically advantaged people who have experienced the West and inherently thought that they are superior to us. Listen, man, I'll tell you something, right? And this is a bit about my personal life. I lived in the States when I was a kid for like 2 years. My dad had gotten a job there, and then we came back for whatever reasons. And I have seen and I have witnessed what it means to live like in a Western country, right? And let me tell you something. Those system. This is a serious discussion. Okay, everybody thinks and every single normie that I have met thinks that America is great because of democracy. America is great because they have democracy, right? This is what they tell me. It's the freedom that makes America great. No. You know what? You know why the American system worked for America? The American system worked for America because the American system was conceived of by the American people and applied to the American people. When America got independence, they had 13 colonies, each headed by one colonialist. And these colonialists were a lot like the East India Company holders. They were capitalists, they were running business. So when they decided to create the United States of America over a 2% tax on tea, right? That is why America was created. It was a 2% tax on tea. So when they created the American system, they decided to make a system that works for them. We have 13 colonies. All these 13 colonies come together. They all say, no, I don't want you to rule over me. You should not rule over me. Right? And then they decided that no. So what we'll have now is a decentralized system to create the United States of America. Right? And this is the story with most first world countries. The reason that they are successful is because the system was created by them and for them. In India, we never got their opportunity. No, the masses' opinions were not heard and were not taken into consideration while creating the Constitution of India. It was built off the academic class, which was inspired by British Labour academics, the British Labour Party and the British left academics. Those were the ones who decided how India should be ruled. And then they brought in their theories of liberal universalism. Well, if the system works there, it should work here, right? Well, and that is why the whole mismatch happened. Because what they were doing is that they were taking these systems from other countries, from other countries, saying, well, look, it worked so well for them, but it's not going to work here. Which is why I like to always say the Indian Constitution is one of the best constitutions in theory, but it is one of the worst constitutions when it comes to actually practically implementing those laws, because they will not work for Indian society. Okay, how are you going to assume? Okay, think about this way. The basis of a democracy, right, is that you have an educated, literate population who's able to take decisions on what affects them. Okay, it's an individualistic attitude that forms the prerequisite of democracy. Indians are not individualistic at all, not in any sense of the word. We are communitarian, right? Samaj kya sochenge is one of the most common phrases heard in every single Indian household. Why do you think that is? Because Indians by nature, our society by nature, and who we are as people is that we are communitarian people. We identify with our community, be it caste, be it community, be it ethnicity, be it language, be it religion. Hindutva is simply an attempt to build that community identity on the Hindu religion. But there have been other communities also in the past. We can't deny that. So when Indian society does not, and then they say, well, it's all about education. No. It's not about education. It's about individualizing Indians through education. That is what the system wanted. They the Indian state's agenda, the long-term agenda of the Indian state, is to convert the Indians into British society. It is for us to think like the British. It is for us to behave like a Westerner. That is what they want. And it's not about what clothes you wear. Oh, you are not wearing these clothes, that's clothes. That's not the point, my friend. It's about how we think and how we view ourselves in position with society. Indians are communitarian, we are a shame-based society, and on top of all that, we care what other people think. Because not only is our society like that, it's also who we are. That's who we are. And the Indian state fundamentally makes the assumption that within 20 years, 30 years of independence, the Indian society can be foundationally transformed into British society based on the values of individualism, liberalism, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. But history has shown us that Indian society is one of the strongest societies in the world. It's never going to change. It's never going to change. The Islamic rulers in India tried to do the same. They wanted to Islamize us. That didn't work out. The British society came, they tried to evangelize us for a bit, that didn't work out. And when that didn't work out, they adopted the strategy of non-interference in religion. They played our religion to ourselves because they knew, they're smart, they knew what they were doing. But the Indian state, what we have done is that they are making the same mistake. They're making the same mistake that many of these invaders did. They're trying to attempt to change Indian society. It's not going to work out. It's not going to happen. Indian society, by all standards of measurement, remains the strongest society in the world. We are too rooted in our culture and it will never be removed. So when the Indian state tries to govern us like as if we are an individualistic society, you have a mismatch. You have a mismatch in the way the state operates and what Indian society actually is. And this mismatch, this tension is the problem. This tension is the problem. Would the left have an argument to say that they were the ones who could actually get Dharmendra Pradhan to resign, even if the right called for it first? I don't care, dude. I don't care. I'm telling you that even if Dharmendra Pradhan resigns, I'm telling you that the next exam there might be a paper leak. Because you have not changed the system. What you have essentially gotten is a cathartic release. Oh, हमने कुछ कर दिया यार. Accountability तो ले ली ना. Okay, so what happened now? Dharmendra Pradhan resigned yesterday. Tomorrow the country goes back to being the same. What has changed essentially? Fine, you take the W. Please take the W that you made Dharmendra Pradhan resign. Okay, take the W. Now what? Now what? Has there been actually any systemic change? No. No. You know what has happened though? Ironically, you know what has happened though? Is that the ruling government will stop becoming complacent. That's what has happened. Right? And in a way that's good. Even for us on the right, that's good. But in reality, what's happening is the people who came to protest are the problem, not the protest itself. And I will explain more about that. But let me just read. America is not a democracy at all. I mean, yeah, it's a constitutional republic. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, fair. Exactly. So it's not really a democracy. It's a constitutional republic which was made because of their own society. I want to talk about hunger strikes. Okay. And I want to talk about the concept of a hunger strike. This is a very Gandhian method of protest, right? And I'm not a Gandhian by any chance, so obviously I do not agree with his method of satyagraha or civil disobedience or whatever. But we will talk about hunger strike. Dude, a hunger strike is like, it's self-destructive, number one. Number two, it relies on some sort of a moral persuasion with the state, okay? But the reality is it's not moral persuasion. It's not moral persuasion at all. It's pressure. It's pressure politics. And I have never subscribed. I've never been one to subscribe to a hunger strike, right? It's like tomorrow I'll take a hunger strike to ensure that the leader of opposition gives up his seat. Will that be entertained? I don't know. Will that be entertained? If I put a hunger strike tomorrow to for the leader of opposition to give up his seat, because I find him incompetent. Whatever. What are you going to achieve? What do you? Does that mean Congress will go away tomorrow? No. Like this achieves nothing. This achieves nothing. It's self-destructive. Okay, it's self-destructive. It shows that you do not have anything else to do. It's privileged, right? So that's about it. Okay, guys, I would love to study more about civics and about right ideology. Can you guys give me suggestions? I already showed you this book. You can read this book, Braveheart Savarkar by Ashutosh Deshmukh. I'll show you one more book. Wait. There is another book. It's called History of Hindu Media and Hindu Genocides. Okay, this is also a wonderful book. Again, gifted to me by the owner of a think tank. You guys can read this book too. This will give you a history of all Hindu genocides and how Hindu phobia works in the first place, and not just about Hindu phobia in general. About this, this way the leftists say, oh, Islamophobia. No, it's not like that. It's about how the state is fundamentally Hindu phobic. The Indian state as a structure is essentially Hindu phobic. This is a very good book, right? This book is by this guy called Bijit Prasanta. It's a wonderful book. My recommendation is you guys can pick up these two books. Little difficult books. They're not easy reads, but I think it's worth to read them. Okay, let's. I have my phone here so I can see all your chats. It's much better for me here. Okay. Okay. So, very interesting question about the alternative for BJP. Listen, time's up. Okay? Time's up. And I'm saying this as somebody who voted for the BJP last year. Time's up. The time is up. You guys had 15 years to bring in radical change. We are getting impatient. We are getting impatient. The young people of this country are getting impatient. What we need is a more radical option. What we need is, we don't need more career politicians. We don't need people who are willing to turn the other cheek and take the Gandhian approach, even though they recite Savarkar from their mouth. What we need is people who can live and die like Savarkar, who can endure the pain at Kalapani and will suffer under the system but will never give up on it. That is who we need. That is who we need. We don't want more Gandhians. Gandhi was the poster child of BJP in 2014. Did you guys know about this? Until 2019, Gandhi was the poster child of the BJP. They never went against Gandhi because they did not have the guts to do it. Right? Now, we'll talk about the pressure politics. We will also talk about the message that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation sends to the entire world. And obviously, and if you're seeing this on Instagram, like, you get your brownie points. Okay, put your little political stories, convince your 10 friends that you are fighting for the right cause, right? You do that. This conversation is for adults. This conversation is for people who have real critical thinking skills, right? So if you want to cry in my comments, go for it. I don't care. I don't care, because this video is not meant for you. So I really don't care. The Indian state, essentially, the message that the Indian state gave out to the public with Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation, despite my opinions on him, on him having to resign 2 months ago before all this happened, is that enough anarchists, enough problematic people who come and break public property, right, will get the job done. The first precedent of this was set with the farmers' protest. Okay? The farmers' protest, if you guys remember, you had a Khalistani mob come upon the capital and tear down the Indian flag. And what did the Indian state do? Sorry. Very, very sorry. मेरे से गलती हो गई. I'm very, very, very sorry. The CJP protest, the Cockroach Janata Party protest, they staged a hunger strike. Okay. And not just that, The protest also led to vandalism. The protest also led to violence on the streets. I am in Delhi. I can see it. Right. So many metro lines have been shut down. A problem for the entire country. There's a word for it in Hindi. No, desh ka mahol. Mahol meaning like atmosphere. It has been disturbed. Right. And what does the Indian state do? Is this a time to show weakness, or is this a time to show strength? No, we showed strength because we delayed the decision, because the state delayed the decision that was supposed to have been taken when the core voters of the party told them that he needs to go. When the core voters of the party, back during the UGC days, back during the CBSE controversy days, when we told that he needs to go, you didn't listen to us. The state can tolerate the CJP protest. The state cannot tolerate when their own core voter base tells them that this is not right. That is the message that this has sent. So now what's to stop them? What's to stop them? The same people who are organizing this protest. What is to stop them to wage a new hunger strike and create more ruckus for the resignation of the Prime Minister? Tell me one thing. The popular mandate, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the country, the popular mandate who has been given, right? To whom the authority has been given. What we have is 1,000 people organizing a Jantar Mantar, and the job is done. They think that they can overturn a democratic result. I am seeing the statements that are coming out of the leader of opposition right now. He's saying Modi will not survive beyond 2027. Who is he? Who is he to go against the democratic mandate of the people? When the people voted him into power until 2029, who is he? What is stopping Rahul Gandhi from launching a hunger strike tomorrow and telling that this will happen? Because the president has been said that if you cause enough ruckus and disturbance, the state will listen to you. Right? People are asking me what was the difference between this protest, this and the CAA protest, and the Shaheen Bagh violence, right? And the farmers protest. What is the difference between these three things? And I will tell you this: the difference between these three things is that you had a consolidated counterculture against these movements. The farm laws, despite it being unpopular only in certain sections of India, especially Punjab, every educated person, everybody who reads a book, right, will be able to tell you, or unless or until they're too politically blinded, they'll be able to tell you that these are essentially good moves. They essentially help modernize and urbanize the entire farming industry. By involving private players in the farming industry, it's a good thing. CAA and RC. This is about citizenship amendment rights. This is about providing protection to minorities and outside India. Because India is not just, as I said, not just a collection of individuals with a bureaucratic identity of an Aadhaar card. There is an essential element of Hindudom in India. There is an essential element of culture in India. And these are good things. And the right would honestly and openly support them. But here what I am seeing is that many center to center right individuals are also telling people, in fact, anybody who's right wing in principle, and not a party filia, are also telling we want Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation also. That is the difference between these protests and the earlier protests. Right? So, we are yet to see what the implications of this will be. Now, electorally, obviously, they are going to be hurt in the next elections, right? And that's a part and parcel of politics. But it's just that what's happening right now is that the state has essentially given a message, right? Regardless of your views on this protest, that's one thing. But what the state has essentially done is that it has given a message by this protest, and the message that has been delivered to the Indian public is: if you cause enough ruckus, if you organize around the Jantar Mantar, we will listen to what you have to say, right? And if that means overturning the mandate of the people, also we will do it, because you 1,000 people who have come here, you are causing too much ruckus. We can't take it. And then they call BJP fascist. And then they call BJP, oh, it's a very authoritarian government. A real authoritarian government would not have even allowed this to happen in the first place. But they did. And they listened to you. But authoritarian government. So let's read some of the chats, what you guys are talking about. To be honest, I don't think that. I don't think that even the BJP will allow. One second. To be honest, I don't think that even the BJP will allow any other right wing party to come, because the level the BJP has achieved is because of the deep groundwork the RSS has achieved. That is true. That is true. And also because any other right wing party will hurt the BJP electorally. So, obviously, they won't allow it. We need Balasaheb Thackeray, the OG of Shiv Sena. I agree. I agree. Except now, if you talk about Gandhi, Rahul, or Mahatma, you get labeled a fascist or dialogue. There is no nuance or room of criticism. Now, this is a very, very interesting conversation to have, right? Because let me tell you, and this is something that I've noticed on Instagram. This is a conversation that is going to be limited to Instagram, right? There are many people in our country, young people in our country, people of my age, right, who have always been a bit wary of such protests. We have always been a bit wary of the Cockroach Janata Party. We have always been a bit wary of such kind of protest activities happening in Delhi because we understand the implications of it. And you can agree with me, you can disagree with me. That's your right to do so. But what I have observed on Instagram over the last few weeks is that we have content creators, people who have never spoken about politics in their entire content journey, coming out and making statements like, oh, well, you don't have a spine if you don't support the CJP. How can you do this? How can you not support the CJP? They think it is their moral cause to support the CJP. That is the problem. That is the problem. Right? And then they label anyone on the right as on the bucks, even though the so-called on the bucks were the first to question the government on Dharmendra Pradhan. You tell me one thing. In this protest, I have seen many of my acquaintances and many people I follow who are not politically too activated, but I know that they're on the center to center right of the spectrum. They all have come out and said that no, we also want Dharmendra Pradhan to resign. Can you show me one left-leaning person who was able to criticize the CJP? You will not. In fact, I today only saw the reels, dude. All these content creators are coming out and telling on social media, well, if you never participated in the protest, you don't get to celebrate. Who are you? Who are you to tell me what I should and should not celebrate? Who are you? You don't have a moral cause attached to your you don't have a moral cause attached to your to your content creation, right? You people need to realize that the culture, once the left gains control of the cultural hegemony, they are the most authoritarian culture out there. Because they believe what they are doing is a moral cause. It is always the urban educated right wingers that I have seen who are always willing to, turn the other cheek. To say, well, you have an opinion, I have an opinion. We both should, talk about it. The left will never do that. They will label you a fascist. They will label you a racist. They will label you an Islamophobe. They will label you all kinds of things to try and not only kill your career, but even kill your character. That is what they do. All these content creators whom I'm seeing, right? The people who make memes every other day, the people who post gym pictures every other day, the people who actually don't read, they're not serious, right? Those people right now, they found a trend to latch on to. CJP, if I talk about CJP, I will get views. And the entire Instagram normie community has been brainwashed by this. To a point where I can't even question their leaders. I can't even say, hey, maybe Sonam Wangchuk is a little bit shady. Maybe Abhijit Dipke is not the saint he portrays himself to be. Maybe the CJP protest should have been organized with a lot better. Oh, you're a andbakt. Oh, you're a bootlicker. Oh, you don't have any spine. Shut up. That's why I'm telling you, this live stream and this reel is not for people who are stuck like that. Okay, this is the adults table. We can have a discussion about this like adults. The fact of the matter is, whenever the left gains any sort of cultural hegemony, they are extremely authoritarian about their views because they believe that they're operating from a moral cause. And when they believe that they're operating from a moral cause, you are the villain. You are not just a political opponent, you are evil. You are a fascist, right? That's what they want. Screw them. You want to hate me? You want to report me? I don't care because my views are my own. And if you don't like them, kindly get off my stream. Kindly get off my Instagram comments. Stop it. And I don't owe you any explanation about anything, for a matter of fact. I don't. Because I know my morals. I was the very first person when the CBSE controversy happened on the right, almost one of the very first persons on the right, to say, I think the Dharmendra Pradhan should resign. Were you there? When the UGC controversy came out, what did the same Abhijit Dipke and all the Cockroach Janata Party say? What did they say? They said, we support it. We are supporters of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. We support this move. They don't have the spine. They don't have the spine. And because it's now popular to hate on the government, they are doing it. All these content creators too, right? I've seen many of these content creators, the people who post dance videos one day and they do something the other day. Suddenly they're talking about politics because now suddenly the moral outrage has come into them, right? They morally believe that, now I have to talk about politics. No. You are not talking about politics because it's a moral thing to do. You are talking about politics because paisa. Because now you realize that if I talk about this, I will get my views. Screw you. Screw you. Nobody cares about this. If I followed a content creator online for watching them dance. You are an entertainer. If I'm following somebody to give their political opinions, speak your political opinions. Don't act like as if you have to be a part of this for it to gain any relevance. And then I see other content creators telling, oh, this is not the time for you to post, this is not the time for you to post your mirror selfies and gym selfies. No, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do? Who are you? Who are you? Right now, the popular culture is to stand with the CJP. It takes the spine to say no. Can you do it? Can you raise a question? I remember I saw one video from the protest that came out by that Peak TV or whatever that channel is, right? You know what they were saying? Well, this protest is so decentralized. It's amazing because even Abhijit Dipke is not here, but the protest is still happening. It is so decentralized. Yes, there is a problem with that. The problem is the same problems that you people complain about later on. Oh, these anti-social elements are coming in, right? Why do you think that happens? Because you have not organized your protest properly. You have not maintained that decorum properly. You have allowed anti-social elements to come in. I think the funniest video was when I heard Abhijit Dipke tell, well, BJP is sending its goons to join and make this protest worse. Gentlemen, listen to me. Who organized this protest? You. Do you have any solid proof that there are BJP workers in your protest? No. So what you are saying is not only a circumstantial evidence, it's also an abdication of your responsibility to ensure that the protest goes in the direction that you want. If I'm organizing a meetup with my friends, I will organize chai, I'll organize biscuit, I'll make sure it's a safe environment. If I'm organizing any event, it is my responsibility, right? And then I see people come in with a 6-month-old child. I saw a woman who came to the protest with her 6-month-old or like a 1 or 2-year-old child. And she's holding her child and she's coming. And all the journalists are coming and saying, wow, this is so revolutionary. Ma'am, you are not supposed to have kids if this is how you're going to treat them. If you are going to bring your child into a protest that has a history of being violent, then you are an idiot. Because what you are doing is that not only are you endangering your child's life, you're allowing your child to also become a political pawn. The other day, some 10-year-old kid, who's barely developed any cognitive abilities, has come to the camera and he's saying, well, Modi is a chai wala, how can he rule? Fine, bro, little kid, you have your opinion, that's fine. But I want to talk to your parents who finds it okay to allow your 10-year-old child to come on social media and have these opinions. Because let's be honest, a 10-year-old child's political opinions are 99, if not 100% influenced by their parents. And if you want your child to become a political pawn for yourself, then you don't deserve to have kids, dude. That's abuse. Nobody wants to talk about this. Why? Oh, because if you speak against the CJP, you don't really have any spine. Shut up. Raising questions, especially about the culture, about whatever's happening right now, about the dominant culture right now, is also your responsibility if you are anti-establishment, right? So do it. I raised questions about the BJP. Can you do it? I raised questions about Dharmendra Pradhan 2 months before the protest happened, and yet you are sitting here and calling me a bootlicker without any spine, but you can't lift any questions about CJP. How is that fair? When somebody asks, why can't that Punjab's education minister step down, they say you don't have a spine. Why? When somebody says Bangalappa should resign from Karnataka, They are saying, what do they say? What do they say when we say that? Oh, you don't have any spine. You are only distracting. You are doing whataboutery. My friend, it's a valid question. And then what will happen is you will essentially realize that if you keep doing this, if you keep making every education minister resign, it's not going to change. It's not going to change. Why is it not going to change? Because the system is still the same. And you people will simply raise up the constitution in the same protest. And you will say, ha, you are being anti-constitutional. The problem of the system also is the same. And the solution also is the same. Huh? How is that possible? How is that possible? And when I raise these questions, oh, you don't have a spine. You are a bootlicker. Shut up. Shut up. I have more spine than you, right? Because I have been principled about my approach. They say, oh, we believe in meritocracy. Really? Really? You believe in meritocracy? Rahul Gandhi recently has made a statement saying that merit is a upper caste idea. And you support him. But at the same time, you're also pro meritocracy. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. Dude, I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more. A contradiction that I've seen in this protest. Okay, I've seen people who say Modi is just a chai wala. Say chai wala, chai wala. How can chai wala rule the country? And it's so stupid. And it is so stupid. On one hand, you say, I am for class liberation. I am for getting poor people. We want to liberate them. On the other hand, you are making fun of somebody who was a chaiwala who ended up becoming the prime minister of our country. Talk about class struggle. No, that they won't do. Second thing, Modi. And I don't like to discuss about caste, but that's what has happened today. Modi is actually India's first OBC prime minister. Did you guys know about this? Modi is India's first ever OBC prime minister. Surprising, no? You know why it's surprising? Because Modi himself has never made the claim that I'm India's first OBC prime minister. Because what he's always maintained is that I want Hindu unity. And I don't want to do this about caste. But chai wala, tu chai wala hai. Uneducated gawar hai tu. One hand they will say you are an uneducated gawar. On the other hand they will say education is a matter of privilege and where you are born. And the intersectionality of caste and education is it's so strong in our country. But at the same time, every single BJP voter is an uneducated gawar. This is the reality. And this is what pissed me off so much. Yeah, as I already said, right, the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan is simply giving people the power to realize that yes, the president now is, if I do a hunger strike, I can even overturn the democratic mandate of a country. That's the reality of it. So, huh, another placard said, Modi ki wife nahi hai, to students ki mat maro. They would say the same thing about Rahul Gandhi. He's not married either because misogyny will only exist for right wingers. This is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. I want to make this clear again and again and again. Right? The left does not operate by any principles. Right? They took an issue, which is a really valid issue about the NEET mishap. And as I said, I have already called for his resignation much before, so my conscience is at least clear like that. But they don't have any standing by themselves. The minute they gain cultural hegemony on social media, on the culture of the youth, look at how they behave. They're authoritarian. You raise one question about CJP, you are a bootlicker, right? You don't have any spine, right? You are an uneducated gawar. But at the same time, on their story, they will say, did you know merit is an upper caste flawed idea? Education has an intersectionality with caste. They will say all this. Okay? They will say all this. But on the same day, they will tell you are uneducated, unpad gawar. No principles. There is no moral standing. It is useless to debate with them at one point. At least the ones who are far off, right? Useless. The contradictions that they hold and they manage at the same time is insane. It's insane. And listen, look. I'm not saying that right wingers are perfect. I'm not. I'm not. Okay. But I'm talking about the educated urban right wingers. Most of them are very open for conversation. I have seen it. I have seen it. And this is my empirical experience. So if you have a different experience, do let me know. But the tags of villainy, the tags of evil, like, oh, you are Islamophobic, right? You are classist, you are a casteist. These kind of tags, on whom does it come? On whom does it come? The politics of hate, the politics of division, all these words are used, no, in mainstream media or on social media, no? Okay, so I want to delve into another topic. Um, and this is an apolitical conversation because it's just an observation about uh, our our generation, and I want to talk about this a bit more. Have you guys seen that video of that reporter getting basically mob lynched in the protest? Right? And obviously, it's one of those instances where you just really can't support this protest anymore because you're like, what is this, dude? Right? Because I don't care about your political opinions, right? About the media. You can call it Godi media, or call it whatever you want. But you need to understand that that reporter is also a human being, and he's doing his job and he's making a living. On one hand, the protesters will say we are all about class liberation and all that they will talk about. On the other hand, Godi media. He's not a person. He has a job, right? He has to go home and he has to report to his boss. Today you have made fun of him on social media. His entire standing in society has come down. Anyway, but the larger point that I want to make from the entire incident is one thing has become essentially clear on both the right and the left, that traditional mainstream media, news media, including Republic TV also, as a matter of fact for all right wingers, have become unreliable. Okay, we don't trust what the news that we see on TV to be real. And you will say, well, it's because of Godi media, it's because of Modi. My friend, when the Congress was in power, the media was pro-Congress. When the BJP is in power, the media is pro-BJP. Media is pro-state. Media is pro-power. Because in India, that's how it works. You call it Godi media, I call it Lutyens media, but the underlying problem is the same. The problem is the media will bootlick whoever is in power. And it seems to me that people on social media are the only ones today who have any sort of authentic opinions, no matter how dumb they are sometimes. Right? So what's essentially happening right now is that what you have is people are losing faith in traditional media because we don't trust it. We don't trust it, right? Right? For example, I know many right-wingers who were pissed off about the E20 ethanol blending thing. I didn't find a lot of discussion about it on mainstream media. You know where I learned about it? I learned about it on Twitter. I learned about it on social media. And I did my research and I made an opinion on it. And this is how modern day media has changed. Right? And the left understands this very well. The left has understood this very, very well. The right is the one that needs catching up. Because the right will still rely on its age-old, information dissemination techniques. Right? They will rely on the age-old narrative building, poster making, story sharing kind of things. But we need more. Why do you think I am here? Why do you think I am doing a live stream? Why do you think I am against going on mainstream media for the most part? Because it doesn't make sense. Nobody watches that shit anymore, dude. People watch YouTube. People watch Twitter. And people get their news on Twitter, on social media. The left has understood this very well. The right needs catching up. The right still does not know what they're doing on this issue. I'm sorry to say, but they don't. You don't have you don't have a live streamer on the right wing. Do you? Except for me, maybe. But you don't. But you have many on the left who run shows. So, the point I'm making is the younger generation is fed up of the mainstream media. Be it Godi media, be it Lutyens media, we are fed up on the right and the left. So what I'm asking you is, I want you, especially if you're on the right, to start speaking up on social media, even if they're unconventional opinions, even if you're going against the party, it doesn't matter. Because the opposition to this ruling government must come from the right. That is my point. You don't allow these protests to be hijacked by the left anymore. I'm sorry, but we don't. We should not. I would have been so happy to see Bhagwa flags in the Cockroach Janata Party NEET protest. Think about that for a minute. If you saw a Bhagwa in the NEET protests, how would that make you feel? How would that make you feel? That's what I want. When the Delhi's air pollution protests also happened, I told nature conservation is the most conservative idea out there, especially in Hindu religion. Because nature is not just a piece of land with trees and woods for the companies to come and mine out the resources. The nature is a spiritual place. Vanvas happens there. Sages go there. The forest as an idea is a living, breathing entity that is super into Hinduism. So my point is, why don't I see Bhagwa flags on these protests? Because what has happened is the party has established a monopoly over the ideology, which is what I want people to come out of. You can be Hindutva and you can criticize the BJP. You can do it. It's possible. And it is consistent. Especially if you are someone who reads books about Savarkar, you will. Because what you will see is a disconnect. There was that famous quote by J. Sai Deepak. I forgot the quote. He said something like, Savarkar on the lips, Gandhi in the spine, and Ambedkar in the heart, or something like that, right? That is so true. That is so true. We want a Savarkarite faction. We want somebody who's willing to make the necessary sacrifices, and that's what we need. So, and I have said this when the Nepal revolution happened. I made a video on Instagram where I talked about this. I said that people underestimate the power of social media. Social media is the new print. Remember when the print came out, when the print media came out in Europe, early Europe, when the print media came out, it revolutionized the way people thought about information. And the people and the governments and the states that did not catch on to this, they lost. They lost. Today, social media reels, right? And Twitter is the new print. It is the new modern method of communication. If you do not have domination in this field, you will lose. You will lose. Anyway. Okay. The left has stayed out of power for nearly 13 years, but still a lot of power they hold deep down. The education institutions are literally under the hostage of the left. Beat any university or college. 15 years, ladies and gentlemen, 15 years the BJP is in power and they have not taken any action in this regard. They have not. They have not. When was the last time you saw a public institution like a JNU, which by the way, when was the last time you saw any public institution, right, open up a department of Indic studies? Today, majority of all the Indic studies are being done by NGOs and think tanks. They're never ever being done by the state government, by the state institutions. Never. Why? 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 Think about it for a minute. 15 years you guys are in power, and the most common excuse I hear from anybody associated with the party is, system to hamara nahi hai yaar, hum to satta mein aa gaya, but system to hamara nahi hai. 15 years you had to gut through the system. That's what we wanted in the first place. We wanted you to gut through the system. We wanted you to trespass institutions. We wanted you to establish Hindutva, not only as a current political climate, but as a ruling ideology of our people. That is why you were voted into power. Let me remind you why you were voted into power. You were voted into power for Hindutva. You were voted into power for governance. You were voted into power for nationalism and for state power. We didn't want the power to go to NGOs. We didn't want the power to go to civic societies. We wanted the power to go to the state, and the state to use it with authority and with responsibility at the same time. But what we've essentially gotten is what? Even till today, majority of our Indic think tanks, Indic, Indic, all that is coming from NGOs. All that is coming from private institutions. No, that's not what we wanted. We wanted you to crush the left nexus that exists in Indian academia. Did you do it? Even now, have you done it? No. No. So what we are saying here, on the right is, hey, maybe it's time for a little bit more radical action. Maybe it's time for you to actually use your authority. Enough of this gerrymandering, enough of this beating around the bush, giving these excuses. Oh, bureaucracy to uske paas hi hai na, hum kya kare? 15 years you guys were in power. You could have done it. System बदलने में 15 years will take lesser only actually. If you are willing to be controversial, if you are willing to be non-Gandhian, if you are willing to believe that the rule book of our country itself is flawed sometimes. 19 what the document was written back in the 1930s and 40s, right 2020, every other day new technology is coming. You think that age old book will allow us to survive? No, we have to change. We need a deep seated change. Why is the BJP so lax in their governance? They bowed down before the anti-CAA protests, still no active action. The same with the farmers' protests. Government has bowed down, and now this. That's what I'm saying, dude. That's what I'm saying, right? The situation would not have even arisen if Dharmendra Pradhan stepped down after the UGC protests. The difference between the whole CAA protest and this protest is that I have seen many center to center right individuals who voted for BJP also telling that yes, Dharmendra Pradhan should resign. Because the NEET mishap is not a political accident. It's not a political move. It's a governance issue, right? No matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, if you wrote the NEET exam this year, right, and the NEET exam had got leaked, say your friend committed suicide after the NEET exam got leaked, will you ever vote for BJP again in your life? The trauma that it gave you, you'll not vote for them. And unfortunately, we have never experienced the alternative. We have never experienced what it means to live under a Congress government, central government at least. Our parents have, so they're willing to forgive this. But the young people simply do not. And I don't blame us. I don't really blame us. Same with me, right? I've never experienced Congress rule, but that does not mean that I allow this to happen. That does not mean that I can just, accept this. So, dude, let me tell you something. Okay? Every single political I'll tell you the problem, and this will change the perspective that you see on social media. I will tell you the problem. Every single political content creator that you see online, on both the right and the left, and we have to be fair in this regard, every single political content creator that you see online, and especially those whose only job is to do content creation, their only job, their bread and butter is content creation, never trust them, because they are always paid. And I'm telling this to you as someone who's been on social media. I've seen this world, right? I have gotten offers from both the right and the left. We are talking like four digit numbers for one video. The money is there. And it happens. Okay, on both the right and the left, it happens. So whenever you see any content creator whose only job is to talk about these kind of politics, and their only job is content creation, never trust them. I can tell you openly that I'm here in Delhi pursuing my master's education, right? And I have not earned a single rupee from any political party on social media. How many content creators will say that? Can they say that? Tell me. Ask them to give a written statement saying that you have never earned one single rupee from any content creation, from any party on social media. Ask any of your favorite political content creators to give out a written statement saying that they have not earned 1 rupee on social media from any political party, and I guarantee you they will not. Your favorite political content creators, and I know them by name, and the ones that you think are so unbiased, right? They're all paid. I can put my hand to God, I can put my hand to Sri Ram, and I can say that I have never taken 1 rupee from any political party for any of my content. Never. Because if I did, I would not be pursuing a master's education. I would not be doing that. I'd still be back in Bangalore. I'd still be sitting within the four walls of my AC room, and I'll still be making pro BJP content. But I have not. Do you know any other political content creator who can tell you that? They will always lie to you. All of them lie to you. This field, And I will tell you something. And this is going to blow your mind. Maybe this is a transgression of the political community online on both the right and the left, but this is the reality. All of your favorite political content creators are paid 100%. The problem with speaking about politics online is that you don't get sponsorships. You don't get sponsorships. No brand wants to work with you because you're a political content creator. Now you tell me, if you are a brand owner, say you're a makeup brand owner, okay? Who would you sponsor? Would you sponsor somebody who has political opinions, or would you sponsor some Instagram model? It doesn't make sense for you to sponsor a political person. The only person in this field who can give you money are political parties. Okay? And so when you see a content creator whose main day job is content creation, never trust them. Unless or until they put out a written statement saying that they have not taken 1 rupee from any political party. All of the content creators who peaked TV, the ones who went to cover that Sarthak guy, whatever his name is, the ones who went to cover the CJP protest, I guarantee you they were paid an upwards of 10,000 rupees per reel. I guarantee you. Because these offers are nothing new in this field. And I have had offers as such, but I'm operating not from a financial perspective. I'm doing this channel because I really believe in what I'm saying. That is the difference. You will never ever, and you know what, and I've gotten criticisms. Oh, you are not consistent with your posting, you are not doing this, because I have a real life. I have a real thing to do, right? I go to a college, man. I have my own life to take care of. I have to take care of myself. So that's why content creation for me is not my day job. It will never be my day job. Making content all day and getting money from political parties, I don't want to do that. I value my freedom of speech, which is why I am willing to say things that other right-wing content creators are also not willing to say. I am willing to say things that transgress certain boundaries. Because that's who I am. Because I value my opinions. The question is, do you? And if you want to be a part of this movement, if you want to get involved with this, you can. But you know what that requires? But you know what that requires you to do? That requires you to work hard. So this is my message to all young Hindu youth. Okay? Study hard. Get an education. All these people on social media will come and tell you, oh, your education doesn't matter, your college doesn't matter, your marks doesn't matter. They're all lying to you. What you should be focusing on is getting into the top institutions, getting into the bureaucracy, getting into IAS. No matter what the struggles in front of you, no matter even if you have to lie to your interviewer and fake your political opinions, do it. I am your voice. I am doing your job right now. I will speak your political opinions. I will take the backlash. I will take the fall. You don't do it. Your job is to study very hard. Your job is to get into the right public institutions and then create change. Do you want to know why a lot of left-leaning institutions today do you want to know why a lot of Indian academia today is left-leaning? I will tell you why. I am in the midst of Indian academia right now. I am in a public policy program and I'm surrounded by Indian academia as I speak. Okay? I'm going to a public institution where I know for a fact that there are many professors, there are many students who are there, and they hold many such abhorrent views, but they are there. And I will tell you what to do. The reason is that academia is a highly elitist field. It's a privileged field. I come from a middle class family in Bangalore. Okay? And I did my engineering in Bangalore. Because the natural outset of a middle class family is get a job and put some food on the table for the family. This is the kind of background that I've been brought up in, and I will always respect my parents for bringing me up in this regard. Okay, because we don't come from generational wealth. I don't come from political royalty. My father is not a politician. My uncle is not a politician. Right? I come from a family of IT workers. I come from a family of self-made individuals, right? But I took the risk to come to this field, even though I know that employment opportunities are not great, because I have a bigger goal, right? And if that means that I don't live a very good life, if that means that I don't live a life with the utmost luxury, so be it. There is a reason why all left leaning, there's a reason why the left has captured academia. There is a reason. And if you want to actually make change being on the right, join. Take that step. Do your research, take that step. You have access to Google. I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you're going to ask me, oh Samir, what should I do with my career? That's your call. But if you really care about this country, you will do your research and you will join the fields that actually matter when it comes to policy making. So, if you're a young Hindu who considers his nation to be supreme like I do, my only piece of advice for you is don't listen to the people on social media telling you that college doesn't matter, your marks doesn't matter. No, I want you to be ferocious in your academic pursuit, right? I want you to get into the best college that you can. I want you to excel in your field. I want you to make good money for yourself. And then from that state of power and influence, you try to change. You don't have to come from political royalty. You don't have to be born into an Ambani Adani family for this to happen, right? You do it. You do it. And it's possible. And then we all band together. And then we create change. Anyway. Do you think the CJP protest and the FCRA bill are interlinked? Will the current ruling government remove the FCRA, which is tabled in this monsoon session? Very, very interesting conversation that we have that this is going to create, and I think that this will. I think that we are nearing the end of the stream. What's the time right now? Okay, it's 10 o'clock. So I think we have maybe another 20 minutes to end the stream. So we will talk about this because I feel like we have not talked about this issue in depth. So we will do it. As I was saying, there are many on the right who do not shy away from criticizing Dharmendra Pradhan. Many, right? One of them was me, and they call me Andhbhakt even though I did that. But there is nobody on the left who is willing to raise an eyebrow at Sonam Wangchuk. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. And if I raise my voice and say, hey, I have some questions about this Sonam Wangchuk character, they'll tell, oh, you are a bootlicker, you don't have a spine. Let me tell you the reality. Sonam Wangchuk back in 2007, under the Congress government himself, there was a letter written by, I think, the IAS officer for the region of Leh. He has written a letter to Sonam Wangchuk and he said that you are causing ruckus, you have illegally occupied land, and you are doing anti-national activities. You are doing anti-national activities. This is exactly what the letter said. Okay? And if you're watching this in the reel, I'll put this as my editor will just put it as will paste the picture of that letter. But in the letter, you can clearly see that the Congress government, not the BJP government, the Congress government themselves have said that this person is engaging in anti-national behavior. Now, for anyone who is young like me, the word anti-national today has been used so recklessly, even by the ruling government, that it has actually lost its meaning. Anti-national does not mean somebody who is against India in spirit. Okay? There are people like that. Anti-national means somebody who's actively working against the interests of the Indian nation. It's not indifferent to the Indian nation. The actions are not just indifferent to the Indian nation. It is borderlining treason. That is what anti-national means. And that has mainly to do with this organization called SecMol. SecMol is a very shady organization linked to a lot of shady NGOs like the Ford Foundation and everything. And they get foreign funding and they're very open about it, that we get foreign funding. Right? So Sonam Wangchuk, is not the great character that you think he is. And I'm sorry to burst your little bubble, right? And if you are somebody who has gotten enraged by just listening to that statement, Sonam Wangchuk is not perfect. You need to take a long, hard look at yourself. Because the person you're calling an Andhbhakt, that person is in the mirror. When you look in the mirror, that person is a bootlicker. That person is an Andhbhakt. If you are not willing to question, I questioned. I said Dharmendra Pradhan should resign 2 months before the entire protest happened. Ask anybody. Why did the UGC protest happen? The people who voted for BJP, they came to the streets and they said no. We don't like the UGC regulations. UP, there were protests going on. Delhi, there was a protest going on. That time, what happened to this Andhbakt thing? Nothing. But now suddenly, when I'm asking you people who you have dedicated your last 2 weeks on your social media to glaze Sonam Wangchuk, to glaze Abhijit Dipke, to glaze Saurav Das, if I tell you guys, hey, maybe Sonam Wangchuk is not a perfect character, and your reaction is, oh, how can you do this? How can you do that? You are the Andhbakt. You are the Andhbakt, not me. To accept that Sonam Wangchuk is not the cleanest character on the planet is maturity from your end. Because I am mature enough to also understand that even Dharmendra Pradhan is also not the most cleanest character, and he should have stepped down long ago. When the CBSE controversy happened only, I wanted him to step down. Can you do it? No. Sonam Wangchuk's organization SecMol has run into problems in the past before, right? Especially regarding the FCRA bill, foreign funding. Sonam Wangchuk's organization has been linked to Ford Foundation. Sonam Wangchuk's organization has been linked to a lot of shady foundations. The same shady foundations which has promoted a lot of disturbances in our country. Now, you may believe that the NEET issue is a genuine cause. I believe you. You are well-meaning. I believe you. But it is also cowardice to not raise your voice. It's also cowardice to say that no, the AISF and the SFI are not a problems at all. They will come and they will wave Che Guevara flags, and that's not a problem at all. So what? Right? Nihang 6 will come and they themselves will tell that police aap usko jaake mariye, because they're also seeing what's happening. On one hand, you will say students were peacefully protesting, we did not engage in any activity. On the other hand, you will say all the students who were detained must be released. What? We all see the videos. Except that you lost control of the protest, except that there were some anti-social elements in the protest, except that there was no need for Kunal Kamra to make that statement. Accept it. The first thing is acceptance. I'm not asking you to take responsibility for Kunal Kamra's statement. I'm not asking you to take responsibility for any of those things, because if you didn't say it, that's fine. But accept it, that it's not perfect. Start with the acceptance. It's okay, calm down. I know that you got pissed. I know that you have been pissed, but it's okay. And for my YouTube audience, if you find that I'm being very aggressive, I'm sorry, because I'm expecting a barrage of comments to come in. So, it is what it is. Okay. How much more importance can be placed in the temple economy to build a dharmic society and hence a Hindu deep state, given that temple control can be removed and the HR&C Act can be... Dude! Okay! So, Akul, if you're listening to this, we had a conversation about this yesterday on the phone, right? We did. We'll talk about the Hindu deep state, whatever that means, right? We'll do it. Okay. So India's economy for the largest part of history has been run by temples. Temples are not just places of worship. Temples have always been places of public importance. Land records, tax records, everything were managed by temples. If you look at the past, the temple is not just a space of spiritual worship, it's also a space of governance. It's also a space where actual activities happen, because the belief is that when you do any activity in the presence of a deity, in the presence of a god, you cannot lie. And this is a very serious thing. Now, people underestimate how much revenue a temple creates. I saw somebody say, oh, temple se employment create ho jata hai. What are you saying? Look at the shops around the temple. Look at the businesses that develop in a temple, around a temple. Temples are extremely important for the Indian economy, and if this government was serious about creating the so-called dharmic society, a dharmic system, right, the first thing they would do is that they would build a temple economy. And a temple economy is worth it. It brings in tourism. It builds nationhood, because the thing is, think about this way. I'm a South Indian. I'm a Kannadiga. Okay? And I came to UP for Mahakumbh. I went to Uttarakhand for Chardham Yatra. Temples necessarily, they promote social harmony, because what you have is you have people who speak different languages coming into one place and worshipping the same god. There is a reason why Sanskrit texts are on the walls of the Brihadishwara temple down south in Tamil Nadu, although the Dravidians will hate this fact. There is a reason why the Kashi Vishwanath temple has Tamil inscriptions on it. There is a reason why we have 12 Jyotirlingas, Char Dhams, right? Where these pilgrimages were encouraged across the country. Because back then and even now, the fact remains the same. The fact remains the same. There is only spiritualism that can unite this nation. When I was talking about the supra nation earlier, a big part of this meta supra nation of India is spirituality. It is traveling, it is pilgrimage. I don't want you to look at it just as pilgrimage. I want you to look at it as a person who's coming from South India, from Northeast India, from West India, coming and then joining together at one particular place to bow down before the same God. That is the importance of a temple. A temple's importance is not just, oh, it brings an economy, although it's very important. Oh, it's just a deity, that's also very important. But what's more important is the sociological effects that a temple has. It is that. I went to Kashi Vishwanath temple, I met an Odia, I met a Punjabi, I met a Tamilian, I met a Telagite, and I also met somebody from Assam. All of them in Kashi Vishwanath temple standing in the same line, bowing before the same God. And the conversations that I had with them changed my perspective on a lot of things. And it is only these kinds of interactions, these kind of micro interactions within people that end up building a nation. That is what we need. That is what we need more of. There is a very nice saying in Kannada. It's called Desha Nodu Kosha Odu. Desha Nodu means travel across your country. Kosha Odu means read your history. Okay? So you need to do both. You need to do both. If you want to become a well-rounded citizen, you need to do both. You need to visit. You need to travel. So it's very, very important that happens. So regardless of foreign interference being there, the government should have just listened earlier instead of letting the ruckus be. Yes, as I already said, he should have resigned long ago, but then he didn't. When their own core voter base, that is people like you and I, told them that, hey, maybe you should not keep this Dharmendra Pradhan guy. Seems a little incompetent. He messed up. When I realized when Dharmendra Pradhan should have actually stepped down, I remember the entire UGC regulations, right? And then after the UGC regulations happened, I saw his reaction to it that he gave to the media. Nothing is wrong. Don't worry. The most deaf reaction. And that's when I realized, yeah, he's going down the wrong path. CBSE controversy happened. What happened? Did he give any statement after that? No. So, we have no way of creating a Hindu deep state as long as there is a non-Hindu on every temple board. That's not happening. The Indian state is not Indic. That's my point. When the constitution is designed like that, what hope can you have of achieving a Hindu Rashtra? Everyone tells Hindu Rashtra, Hindu Rashtra, Hindu Rashtra. You are living a dream. You are living a dream. A Hindu Rashtra is not possible in this atmosphere unless and until you have a government, unless and until you have people who are willing to say that we will do whatever is necessary, and if that means bypassing the constitution, so be it. So be it. Ultimately, the voice of the Hindu nation matters more than any book written in the 1940s. So, unless and until you have people willing to say that, and that's the Overton window I'm trying to bring by doing this, it's that. It's just that. Lot of confusion. We want temples free from government, but at the same time, we see some scams happening in temple. Prime example is Ram Mandir, while Tirupati being in state control has no scam. Dude, first of all, we have an ontological error here. First of all, okay? Again, it's a very, very common misconception that many other free government, free Hindu temples, free Hindu temples, free Hindu temples, we all say it. Free from whom? From the government, right? That's what we want. But at the same time, we have a right-wing government. So how do we reconcile that? How do we reconcile a right-wing Hindutvavadi government and at the same time we'll say free Hindu temples? Does that make any sense? The logical answer is temple is not governmental property. Temples belong to the mutts. Temples belong to religious institutions. Temples belong to mutts. What temple board are you constituting from the government? In the history of India, no king, no royal institution has ever taxed temple land. We do. We do. The Indian state today does it. history of India, it was considered adharmic for a ruler to tax temple lands. The ruler would help build temples, would employ labor to build temples, but he would never tax them. Tax-free lands were given for temples, and yet the modern Indian state, in all of its audacity, wants to tax temples. But they will not tax any other. They will not tax any other religious institution. No, give the temples back to the mutts. That's who the temples belong to. The temples don't belong to the state. They don't. The temples belong to the mutts, the people who are actually in the dharmic business. The state cannot. The state is limited by politics. When the state can appropriate Ambedkar, a person who called Sri Ram lots of wild things in his book The Riddles of Hinduism, right? When the state can appropriate Ambedkar, and then they can lecture us on, oh, it's just realpolitik, we need to involve more people, right? If the state wants to play politics, let the state play politics. Temples should be free from the politics of the state. You build the Ram Mandir, great, but you can't own the Ram Mandir. Ram Mandir should belong to the mutts, as they always have been for the history of this country. This is an aberration. The last 70 years of our country has been an aberration. This is not the way India was ruled. I will give you lots of examples about Indic governance, okay? And this is something that I want to write something very extensively on, not just an article, but I have a long-term project over the next 2-3 years. I want to write something on this, right? And it means, and it's talking about, and this is the last topic for the day, because I think it's been quite late. 2019, there was a very famous word that was being thrown around in Indian politics, and that is Indic wing. Not right wing, not left wing, Indic wing. Suddenly that word died out. Why? Okay, let alone die out, let alone asking why, we need to understand what is Indic governance. In my interpretation, Indic governance refers to a form of governance or a system of governance that is rooted not only in Indian tradition but also in Indian history and Indian realities. Okay, so what do I mean by that? One needs to do a genuine study of how all Indian indigenous empires worked, and what you will see. Am I not audible? If I'm not audible, please tell me. Wants to tax temples, but they will not tax any other. Okay. I think I'm audible. Okay. Anyway, 2019, there was a word that was being thrown around in Indian politics, and that word was called Indic wing. Okay, not right wing, not left wing, and at that time I was very hopeful about Indian politics because someone was using this word, Indic wing. Now, what is this Indic wing? Indic wing, in my interpretation, simply refers to the kind of governance, right? The kind of governance that happens, which is based on the realities of Indian society and Indian history, and it is based on the way Indian indigenous empires governed themselves. You look at the Arthashastra, you look at Chanakya Niti, you look at all these ancient books that were written on Indian statecraft, what you will realize that there is something common. Regardless of it being Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaja's empire or the Mauryan empire or the Gupta empire, whatever Indian empires have been there, all of them had certain shared characteristics. Think about it this way. When the Mauryans expanded, when Magadha was the seat of India and the Mauryans expanded, do you think that they killed every single king that they conquered and they directly sovereign ruled over it? No, they did not. It was called layered sovereignty. Decentralization at the max. It was maximum decentralization. The common Indian citizen would not even know properly. Only all that he would hear about the king is through edicts and through announcements, right? Decentralization at the max of it. But does that mean that there was no unity? I don't think so. I think that there was still a metastructure of the empire upscale. Okay. How did the Indian economy work? What made the Indian economy the golden eagle of the ancient world? That's the word that many historians use for the Gupta age, right? The golden eagle of the ancient world, right? What made it so great? Think about it. What made the Indian economy so strong? Today we are discussing capitalism, socialism, communism, blah, 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 blah. But what is it? What was it about the Indian economy that made the Indian economy in ancient times so successful? Obviously, this is a pre-industrial conversation. I understand that. But what is the basic philosophy of it? The basic philosophy of any Indic governance is decentralization. It is decentralization. Decentralization of language, decentralization of faith, decentralization of everything. Of everything. Right? And people on social media always on this. Sanskritization has been such a horrible process for Indian society. It is a story about how Sanskrit was imposed. You tell me one thing. Even till today, there are so many pre-Vedic religions in India that have survived. Many tribal religions have survived. In fact, they have been incorporated into mainstream Hinduism, making ordinary Hindus from other parts of the country go visit them. Kantara is one example. Kantara, there is a process called as Bhutakola. I heard many regional supremacists tell, oh, Kantara and the Bhutakola is a pre-Vedic situation, blah, blah, blah. Even if I accept your argument, ladies and gentlemen, that particular ritual is still alive. Why? They didn't. When your so-called villains in your head attacked and conquered or whatever did they do, did they erase their traditions? No, they did not. They syncretized it. They synchronized it. Sanskritization has been the earliest form of nation building, and people don't realize this. So many traditions down south still survive today. Why? If your so-called Sanskritization process was such a hard process, they should have been erased, but they still survive. And one of the things that you will see, regardless of it being the Mauryans or the Guptas or any of the other empires, is that number one, decentralization, right? Number two, there was a central authority. Obviously, there was a central authority, but in terms of governance and in terms of responsibility, it was always autonomous. Lots and lots of autonomy had to be given down to the region, down to the district level, not to the state level. Not to the state level. Even that is also too big of a unit of governance. It is down to the district level. Right? So one of the things that we learn from Indic governance is what? Giving the local authorities more power. That is what we need. This is one of the directions that I want to understand Indic governance in. Right? It is rooted in Shastras and everything I understand. But from a pragmatic perspective, when you look at the tenets of Indic governance, the most important tenet of Indic governance is decentralization. Everyone talks about Indic governance, but nobody wants to understand what Indic governance is. The principal tenet of Indic governance is decentralization, because if you look at the history of India, starting from the Mauryas to the Marathas, every single indigenous Indian empire has decentralized. And yet we, in the last 70 years, even though the constitution calls itself as a quasi-federal system of governance, it is not federal at all. It is centralist and it is statist. So, that is why I say the constitution the last 70 years of our independence has been an aberration on Indian history and on Indian society. Indian society has never been ruled like this indigenously. Maybe the invaders have ruled us in a different way. But whenever there's any Indic sovereignty or indigenous sovereignty of our country, we have never ruled ourselves like this. That is why this constitution is an aberration. What do you think about the 2029 election? Yeah, what will happen, bro, in 2029? I don't know. I'm not a political predictor. I cannot sit here and I cannot predict politics. As of right now, definitely the government looks like it's on the back foot. Definitely the central government looks like it's on a back foot. And definitely the morale of the right is down. I understand that. But the one thing you cannot deny about the current government is that they're very crafty and they play politics really well. So I don't know. Anything can happen in the next 3 years. So I can't really say anything. It's too early to say anything. Can we have an Indic version of Uniform Civil Code? Absolutely. Right? Because in the modern world, you need Uniform Civil Code in order to survive. So absolutely we can. But it's about how we do it. Are we going to introduce the same things? or are we going to be a little different about this? See, these are so many concepts that we can have a discussion about, and I honestly wish that I can do these episodes longer. But I think I think for tonight I'm going to call it a day. Okay, I'll answer like a few more questions. But does the leadership, even to the district level, have the same level of responsibility? Do we have the leaders for that level of decentralization that you call for? We don't. We don't have those leaders right now. But that's the point. That's why we should develop them, right? See, ultimately, let me tell you one thing. If your local MP lives, if your local MLA or your local MP or whoever is in charge of your locality, right? If they live near your house, if they live next to your house, it is so easy to go hold their collar and say, why aren't you doing your job? So you need leaders who are from that district, you need leaders who are from that unit of governance to be there, to stay there, and to be amongst the people. Because Indian society is ruthless like that. Indian society has always been ruthless towards its leaders like that, many a times. So when you have a local leader who is within your grasp, you will go hold his collar and say, what are you doing? And that shame will actually make him do more work. If Indian society's problem is societal shame, let's start to use it in politics. Let's start to shame people who can't do their job. And in order to put a system that we need to rethink our entire Indian constitution. But anyway. Okay. Now that you talked about this, I think that we will this is my last point that I will be making today, or else I will stay here the entire night talking to you guys. Honestly, I don't mind that, but I have my own life too. So we will discuss about this last thing, okay? Have you guys ever wondered why the Congress party did not join these protests initially? Think. Think. Why did the Congress party not join the CJP protest? Even when the Congress raised their own dharna, they did it outside the PM residence. Did Rahul Gandhi ever go to Jantar Mantar? Did he go? Wait. Let me Google this because I want to be sure as to what I'm saying. I don't think so, right? Rahul Gandhi never went to Jantar Mantar, if I'm not wrong. Wait. He went, no. But if I'm not wrong, there has been some disagreements between the CJP and the Congress. I remember reading a statement by Sonam Wangchuk's wife, where she's come out and she's saying that all this is like, oh, this is all just drama, whatever. Rahul Gandhi is all doing drama and all whatever, right? So as far as I know, they have been staying away from CJP. At least top leadership has been staying away from CJP with a 6 foot pole. But I will do so. I should have done more research before I talked about this. That's my bad. Okay, so we will talk about something else. Do you? Yeah, Google says he went there, and that was my mistake. I'm very sorry. But uh, don't you think we have become so much dependent on our political party for our ideological legitimacy? We are blackpilling so much because of this government's one bad decision. Welcome to the club. Are you new to this channel? Welcome to the club. Because that's exactly what I've been saying, dude. Think about it this way. You know what the BJP hates more than Congress? It's anybody on the right who doesn't agree with them. Because they are the ones who can actually cut into their vote bank. No. See, it's not just one bad decision, my friend. It's not just one bad decision. Think about it. No, it's not just one bad decision. It is a series of bad decisions. Starting from CBSE controversy, UGC guidelines, NEET problem, so many problems. So many problems. Not just one bad thing. It's been a consistent. And what's happening is, see, even if you are a party pillar, Even if you are somebody who blindly supports the party, even you must accept that the image that Modi had in 2014 of being this incorruptible, infallible leader is now gone. It's gone. People don't look at him like that anymore. Even boomers don't look at him like that anymore. Boomers, even now, I'm seeing boomers view Modi as a compromise to not have Rahul Gandhi. Okay. They don't view Modi as a perfect politician anymore. He had that image at one point in time, not anymore. So that image has definitely been spoiled. I will agree with that much. So Modi looks very human now, in the sense that he doesn't look like the legendary figure that he was in 2015 and 2014 and 2019. And that was shown in the 2024 elections. That was shown in the 2024 elections, no? Because you saw the results for yourself. So my point is that particular idea of Modi being this anti-corruption, incorruptible, infallible leader is now gone. With the Ram Mandir controversy, with the CJP controversy, with everything included, that image is now gone. And even you must agree, even if you are somebody who supports the party, even you must agree that. So, and ultimately, dude, listen. The BJP kept on importing Congress leaders over the years. Okay, they kept on importing Congress leaders over the years, and ultimately you become what you import. If you keep on importing so many controversial leaders, what do you think is going to happen to the state of the party? It's going to become the next Congress. They are the new normal now. So the new dialectic has to be something else, and Congress is not doing its job. So obviously we had this. So, uh, okay. Okay, Advait Joyce, I already answered your question, but I will answer one last time because I need a clip out of this. So I need a clip out of this. So for the guys who think that this is a repetition, I'm very sorry, but I think that I'm going to make a clip out of this. Okay. The resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan feels cathartic. It feels nice. It feels that some accountability has been taken. But can anyone sitting in this comment section can you tell me that just because we changed the education minister that from now on there will be no other paper leak? No. Because the problem is, regardless of who it is the problem of the system. Now, I have to be very specific as to what I mean by the system, because everyone uses the word the system. It's very funny because, I go to these, I see these protests, and all of them hold up the Indian constitution and they say, you are against this Indian constitution, that is why this problem is happening, you are anti-constitutional. My friend, the problem comes from the constitution. The result of the system is the purpose of the system. The purpose of the system is what the system creates. So because of that, it is very, very almost laughable that you would raise up the Indian constitution at a protest against the system. So it feels cathartic. It feels accountability ले लिया हमने. Accountability तो मिल गया ना. So now what? Tomorrow we're back to square one ना. Has any change actually happened? No. No change has happened. Absolutely none. See, what is the purpose of an education system? Listen to me very carefully. Okay? What is the purpose of an education system? What is the purpose of education? As urban people, we all tend to think that the purpose of an education is to get a job. It is technical education, no? It's to get a job. But no. The purpose of an education is not just to get a job, ladies and gentlemen. The purpose of an education is a way a civilization reproduces itself. The way a civilization transfers its values from its past to its future. So when you talk about the education system, Kharabe, it's not just about paper leak. I'm talking about the entirety of the education system, starting from the time we are in nursery up the time that we go up till the higher education. This is the same way. Colleges today, you think about it, just think about it. First of all, in our country, you have seen the state of government schools. So only those privileged enough and to live in the cities can get a decent education. Now, on top of that, even if you are somebody who's come from a slightly privileged background, even you also will face the trouble of having to sit through an examination. And in India, we all know the culture of examinations. The culture of an examination is focused on rote learning. It is focused on a very specific set of useless skills, to be very honest, right? And ultimately, even when somebody becomes an engineer or whatever, right, they are only they're focusing on education. The way a college even promotes itself today to parents is 100% placement हो गया मैडम, 100% placement हो गया सर, हाँ आप अपना बच्चा यहाँ पर भेज दीजिए और उसको जॉब मिलेगा. So you're telling me that the purpose of a college is to provide employment? Is that what a college is meant for? You look at any other abroad university, the way a college will promote itself is because of the amount of scholarly research work that they end up publishing. Because that is actual education, that is actual scholarship. But we don't have that in India. We don't. We just don't. Okay? So starting from the very, very first stage of government schools, all the way up till college and even higher education, the purpose of the education system is only for employment at this point. And even with that, we have unemployment in our country. Even with that. Okay? Not just that. Second thing. The purpose of an education system is not just to teach them about the practical skills of life. It also teaches you how to be a citizen. Right? Now, you and I probably who are watching this stream, we went to a good school. We went to an English medium school in a city. Okay? And there we were taught how to maintain public spaces. It's a very, very simple learning. Think about it this way. We go to a washroom in your school. You can't make it dirty. You can't not flush the toilet. Simple things, no? Simple things. But those kind of attitudes you will carry on throughout your life. Right? But what about government schools? Teachers don't show up. Kids don't go. They do midday meals, but it doesn't even work out at this point. So, and the majority of India goes to government schools. Majority of India goes to government schools. So now what's happening is you have a class divide, and along with the class divide, you have a behavioral divide. And that is why you have all this coming in now. All this classism coming in now. The point of the education system is how a civilization reproduces itself. You look at, see, people, I tell you something, okay? And this is a very important conversation, and I would like to end my stream on this conversation, although I've been telling that for a long time. I should do it because I have to sleep. Indians love self-flagellating on the concept of civic sense. We keep saying Indians don't have civic sense, Indians don't have civic sense. But here is the problem. Civic sense is not some virtue that you just one day wake up with. It's not that one day you wake up and realize that you should not pollute your country. It's a habit. Okay? It's a behavioral pattern. It's a habit. Maintaining a line, not breaking a line, standing in a queue, not getting to, not invading someone's private space. These are all habits that you build throughout your life. Civic sense is not some virtue that you just wake up with one day and realize, oh, I am such a civic. No, it doesn't work that way. Countries invest in civic sense. Through what? Through education. Okay? You look at Japan's curriculum. I think that until a long time of their education system, it's all about manners. How to bow to somebody. Okay? How to maintain public space. How to keep your surroundings clean. They make all of their students clean their own washrooms in school. They make all of their students clean their own classrooms and clean and it's on duty. Everybody has to do it. It's not like there's an option. Everybody has to do it. Okay? This is the point of an education system. It's not just to it's not just to like give you the technical education to get a job. The point of an education system is to also transfer the values that you want to see the next generation having. That is the point of an education system. So a real government that's actually, focused. So any government that should actually be focused on developing the country and building a so-called civic sense in our country, the way you invest is education. You teach civic sense through education. And make sure that everybody goes to school. And you look at the state of our government schools and public schools today, and you will realize what I'm talking about. And Indians love self-flagellating. Now, oh, we Indians don't have civic sense. We Indians don't do this. Who taught you civic sense? Has anybody taught you how to be a good citizen of the country? Has your school ever taught you? Has your parents taught you how to be a good citizen? How to have civic sense? Without nobody teaching you, we are sitting here and telling Indians don't have civic sense. It's not in us. No, it's in our blood. It's not in us. This is called self-flagellation because you are misdiagnosing the problem. The problem is not that we don't have civic sense. That's a symptom. The problem is the state, the government, since independence, has never invested in building civic sense. When we got independence, we were a largely illiterate population. The first focus should have been building a set of behaviors and characters meant for a modern industrial society. And we don't have that. Everyone makes this joke, right? Indian standard time means 30 minutes late to anything. That's not a joke. That's an insult. So you're telling me that the average Indian is 30 minutes late to every commitment that he has. But we take it so lightly. Ha ha ha. We make jokes about it on Twitter. Huh? Nobody wakes up one day with this idea that we should throw everything in dustbin. We just know it. That's all. But nobody does it because it's not habitual. It's not habitual. And how does it become a habit? From a young age. From a very young age. Schools should be doing it. Public institutions should be doing it. But we don't do it. Instead, what we do is we end up self-flagellating. So, higher education is a privilege today. And that's the reality of it. So I don't think it should be free. But I think that primary education must be free. So yeah, that's been episode 2 of the National Perspective. Um, I see your comment, Akul, but I'm not going to comment on it because this is not the right time for me to do it. But but it's been a long day. I'm also going to go crash right now. I hope you all have a good night. Thank you for tuning in to the episode 2 of the National Perspective. I will catch you guys on next Sunday. And I did this episode today because of because of the education minister's resignation. So thank you all for tuning in and see you later next week.